Greetings, various fair and mighty people across the grand and mighty spectrums of time and indeed the multiverse. I am Gordon Johans, and I think we need to have a talk about emotions. Emotions! I don't know, I've never played those fucking games. I have never even seen the reviews of those games, but it seems memes infect even me. So yesterday I made a video where I outlined a kind of cold equation that is in my life. And someone either misunderstood the video, which is a hell of a thing to do considering that the video was quite explicit in the right to take it, so they must have presumably watched very specifically out of context to not understand it, or they were someone being malicious. But either way, I feel like it's maybe not such a bad thing to try and give some insight into the emotional well-being outside of the bravado, because the thing is, I have to do a certain amount of bravado because I got a hate base after me, and to a certain extent, right, if there is a way out of this darkness, it's through the YouTube, and I'm not kidding there, right? Like, there are limits on what I can and can't say, but because, you know, of like YouTube terms of service and what have you, but basically we have reached a threshold in terms of the YouTube ad revenue now where just for this channel, and I have, you know, 3 channels, I mean, okay, I don't use one because that requires scripting, but there's also, you know, blogs and whatever that I've got. Just for this channel, the ad revenue is enough or nearly enough to pay my food bill. I mean, it's not perfect because, you know, I like to have snacks, and, you know, there are things like squash and peanut butter and, you know, deodorant and stuff that needs to be gotten as well. But being able to live, being able to have food is a heck of a big deal. And my YouTube ad revenue has reached and is reaching the point where it can pay that. It's not enough to pay rent, it's not enough to, it's definitely not enough to run a car, it's not enough to pay gas bills or electricity or whatever, but it's enough for food to stay alive. So, in other words, I'm committed now. I'm a company man. I am working at the fireplace of YouTube. I am working at the forge of YouTube, pulling on the great chains of industry. So that means you ain't getting rid of me. I mean, it is really kind of ironic that essentially I made a video yesterday talking about how YouTubers are maybe the reason I end up saying that YouTubers might be the reason I am never forced into a dark place. And yet someone got from that, oh, well, I'm in a dark place right now. I'm not in a dark place. I'm in a very, very good place at the moment. I am... Well, bad stuff is happening. That's the thing. Like, life is complicated. Life is complicated. Bad things can be happening at the same time as good things. Right? And the thing is, like, if you've been on Tumblr or Facebook or anywhere else, but Tumblr is kind of the epitome of this. Like, Tumblr loves to paint everything as good guys and bad guys, right? And the idea that actually things are complex, that, like, you can have a character like Winston Churchill, who is a very flawed man in many ways, but he does some things really well, and in those moments, he is the guy you need, right? He's got a whole lot of other flaws. He's problematic in all kinds of ways. But when we needed a war being fought and won, he was the guy, right? And it's like, you can have a complex time of things. Complex stuff can be going on. Things are not just... Christ. Guys, I know BDSM is kind of a part of my online persona, but, like, when I don't want to say 50 Shades of Grey because people are just going to think of that shitty fucking spunk fic that she wrote that somehow spiraled into this whole grand phenomenon. So I can't say Shades of Grey, but, like, there are variances to the particularities, right? It is not just, I feel happy now, I feel bad now. It's... So let's start defining shit, shall we? But because I make hour-long videos, incidentally, I was never so very thankful for making videos that are too long, don't watch, as yesterday when I said to a police officer, the video is an hour long, and he said, you know what, we don't need to watch it. Because it's like, yes, that means I didn't have to explain all of those awkward moments about, you know, kill the Nazis. might be slightly awkward. Yeah. Generally, piece of advice. Don't actually, you know, even if you're talking about Nazis, like, wait until war starts off. Like, when war starts off, people, like, it's a war. People die. But, like, don't talk about things that you don't mean, like, until, like, it's not good. It's just not good. Again. Things that will sound terrifying out of context. Maybe that should be what my biography is called when I'm dead. This makes terrible sense out of context. Anyway, I'm going to cut this, and I'll see you in a moment because I want this beginning bit to render quickly. Right, awesome. So, like the whale that was spontaneously summoned by the infinite improbability of drive, thousands of meters above the planet of Magrathea, let's start defining some terms. So, let's start with the basic idea of a segregation between sort of emotional intelligence and logical intelligence and rational thinking and reasoning, right? And I know this very well because for years I was wrong about this until someone kept asking what I meant and kept being confused by what I meant. So I looked it up on Wikipedia and realized, oh shit, I had been wrong my entire life. So basically, sentience was sort of created as a term by the French during about the time of the Enlightenment and the Revolution, as effectively a way to distinguish between the intelligence of humans and the intelligence of animals, right? Like, animals clearly have some level of intelligence, have some level of instinctual reasoning and reaction and what have you, right? Like, animals will react with fear. Animals clearly display lust and love and affection and anger and all of these things, and basically, like, that's emotions. Sentience is emotions. And then there is sapience. And again, like, sentience and sapience have crossovers, but with defining terms for the use of this, I suppose this is kind of me improvising a sort of verbal vlog style essay. Okay, so this is us introducing the terms that we're going to use going forward. So here we're using sentience to mean emotional intelligence, or at least the emotional side of things, and sapience to mean rationality, logic, right? So it's like you know, your cat is sentient. An android is sapient, right? An android has logical processing, but it doesn't have emotions, right? It can, logical processing can deduce, right? Say, you know, in the sort of, in the data example, like, you know, Borg have invaded the ship. The captain is in danger. This is not good, right? This is a suboptimal situation to be in. We should attempt to rectify the situation forthwith. How do we do that, right? Whereas the cat is just like, I don't have food. I don't like that, right? Emotions and logic. And obviously, right, I'm a person. I have both emotions and logic. But the thing is, I have a very powerful imagination, and I think it's part of my Asperger's syndrome that basically I am very empathetic. I feel things extremely, right? I feel things to a great extent. And let's face it, being a fucking weirdo means you're gonna get your ass handed to you at school. And I got my ass handed to me a lot at school. And that thus naturally is going to create anger issues, right? If you get beaten up a lot, you're gonna be pretty darn resentful about it. And so I have always had this sort of burning rage inside me, and thus, and I've also had these horrific nightmares because, again, you know, every single day you're being harassed by all these people, you're feeling trapped, fear is going to be a big thing in your life. So fear and anger have always been the two strongest things in my life, right? The two strongest emotions, and thus very good reasons for me to sort of construct ways to control these things, right? So let's, like, I am essentially going to give you a potted history of my development coming to understand and control these parts of myself, so that you will fucking understand why I can be in the shit situations I am in now and be, generally speaking, most of the time, more or less okay, despite knowing that, you know, there's a guillotine hanging above my head. Okay, so the anger thing is pretty easy to explain because it's fairly simple, really. Basically, I went to a C of E school. The 10 Commandments were part of that, you know. Obviously, one of the 10 Commandments is, you know, thou shalt not kill, right? And let's face it, it's also one of society's biggest rules, right? And I suppose why having a whole bunch of Nazis coming back is creating a whole load of problems for society, because it's like, thou shalt not kill, but if we do nothing, these people will kill everyone. What do we do? Respect their rights, but then they'll kill us all. Which is where you get utilitarian morality, and it's like, but still, I basically, from an early age, got the idea of, don't be physically violent. And part of this was that in school, I didn't give a shit. Or at least, in primary school, I didn't give a shit. Like, fights just happened on the playground, right? And I genuinely remember my last day of primary school, I was just, like, smacking my worst enemy's head at that school, just smacking his head against the concrete over and over again, screaming in his face, "Why won't you die?" Right? Like, because this guy had, I mean, there is a whole story there of, like, he was my best friend, we went round each other's people's houses, I had a crush on his brother's girlfriend, and then he turned against me and he threw me down a flight of stairs, and we fought until finally it ended up with this, almost like thing from the end, from the Wrath of Khan, of me just screaming, right? And so suffice to say, after that, I was like, you know what? No. I am not going to be that way again. That was bad, right? That was a bad time for me. I'm not going to be violent. I will be like a monk. I will have my moral code that will say I'm not going to smack a bitch even though he is being horrible towards me. And part of this was also that when you go into secondary school, that's when people are going through puberty, which means that if you're a first year and you're getting picked on by people in higher years, those are people who are much taller and much bigger and much stronger than you. So there are also practical reasons why you don't want to get into fights. I mean, I had mates who would get into fights and love to get into fights, and they won those fights. Indeed, for a large part of my school, I basically survived because my best mate was a guy who fought, and fought well, and fought hard. Whereas I was just like, he's big and he's coming for me, fuck! Right? And I didn't run, although I can sprint. I can sprint with a fucking heavy backpack on me when I have to. I don't wear heavy backpacks on me anymore because I learned, right? But if you can imagine, like me, sort of, maybe a couple of feet shorter, with effectively like a locker just strapped to my back, running, pelting it to the other end of the school because he's gonna fucking get me. Right, I suppose it comes to the idea that, like, there might be reason to hope that if we do develop artificial intelligence, that it doesn't immediately nuke us all, because it turns out that actually one of the best ways to avoid having bad things happening to you is to avoid upsetting people by trying to do harm to them. So, there are many reasons why I sort of developed this code very early on of being like, don't hurt people. Hurting people, bad. Doesn't mean to say it was fucking easy, right? It's a much shorter story because it's just like, I decided that hitting people in the face was wrong. But actually kind of succeeding in not hitting people in the face is far, far easier said than done, because, I mean, I suppose in a way this is why, like, I can afford to make my living off trolls' hatred of me, because it's like at school there were boys who would just be like physically attacking me and attacking me and attacking me and attacking me, hurting me and hurting me and hurting me and hurting me, watching me reach the point of stress, and like I would develop warning signs because you know like I am someone who can be perfectly calm right up until the moment I get angry and lose it, and I'm like, fuck you. Right? And so I developed warning signs where I'd like deliberately clench my fists and do deep breaths. And then when I was really annoyed, I would roll my eyes up into my head, just be like, so I was basically saying, okay, I don't want to hit you. I do not want to fucking hit you. But if you have gotten me to this point, it is because you are a stupid motherfucker. And if you don't fucking run now, we're both screwed. So when I was going to go, I was gonna go big and I was gonna go loud and you were gonna fucking run. Funnily enough, that only encouraged them to keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it, poking and poking and poking and poking and oh look, his eyes have got inside out. Oh, it's so funny. You know, so much easier said than done to avoid, you know, harming people. Like, I mean, I learned the tactic of like, if you have to go early when you've still got enough control to miss, right? Because people would say, obviously, don't give in to the anger, don't give in to the anger, but there comes a point when you can't control it anymore. And it's like, it's like if you're reaching the point where the floodgates are about to buckle, then have enough strength left to be able to pick where the fuck it's gonna go, right? And if I was gonna lash out, I was gonna make sure that I lashed out when I had enough strength left to miss. Because it doesn't ultimately matter whether you hit that guy or not. The moment that the guy he has been picking on and picking on and picking on suddenly moves and like he gets out of dodge. Of course, you know, you then get into, I suppose, the utilitarian perspective of like, but then if he's seen you've missed, he's gonna try it again and again and again and again. And that's pretty much my life up until the point when I decided to basically walk out of school and never go back again. Because I had that endlessly and endlessly and endlessly and endlessly of physical abuse after physical abuse after physical abuse after physical abuse after physical abuse. You know, people spitting in my glasses, in my eyes, lighting my hair on fire, making me eat crisps with spit in them. Not fun time, school. Not fun time. Yeah. So let's now tackle the sort of the nightmare and dreams part of it. Okay. Yeah. So I had these nightmares about sharks over and over and over and over again. This is why for so many years I had insomnia. Because basically every time I went to sleep, my subconscious would decide to torture me. Because basically I have a powerful imagination and my subconscious hates me. So well, no, it's not so much that it hates me so much as it is that, like, when you're going to school every day and you're getting bullied, like, you nightmares are your brain's way of trying to prepare you for shit that can happen, right? I suppose they're like your brain saying, okay, let's put you for a danger room scenario. Make sure you're fit for the day's traumas that could, come. And I suppose in a way it has prepared me for a life in which, drama bombs after drama bombs after drama bombs after drama bombs have been, dropped. It's basically why I kind of keep asking my sister whether she's gotten married yet, because, like, at this point I'm just like, I'm expecting bombshells. Right, okay, who's died? What's happened? Let me know, just let me know. Anytime something happens, anytime I talk to someone, I'm just like, okay, what's gone wrong this time? What big thing in life is happening this time? I did not mean to imply that my sister getting married would be something going wrong, although I suppose it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Suffice to say, that was just me having a slip of the tongue there. But I expect things to go wrong, and my nightmares, my sort of dreams and stuff are basically like, it's not so much nightmares a lot of the time as it is just the fact that my brain is fast and it is really powerfully imaginative, right? Like, I can feel emotions and sensations of fictional places almost as strongly as reality. And certainly whilst I am within those sort of dreams, they feel real. There is a distinct tonal difference between reality and dreams, but they are very powerful things. And basically, when I'm tired, my brain is still running, but I no longer have the energy left to consciously be in charge of what it is doing. So it's like the brain is the projector that's just left running as it plays blank tape, except it's not blank tape. It is all my insecurities, it is my fears, it is everything I dread, all running hyper fast, and all running hyper fast with this incredible sense of realism. And one of the nightmares that I would have over and over recurringly was sharks. Okay. And it wasn't being eaten by sharks, it was the threat of being eaten. And so I'd look down and there'd be a shark coming up to get me. And then there'd be a shark in front of me. And then there'd be a shark behind me, to the left, to the side, like every direction. And then I'd try to swim up and there'd be a shark there. And it didn't help that, obviously, I'm a tall guy. I stick over the edge of the bed, and also, I'm called Alex. The boy on the lilo who gets eaten by a shark in Jaws is called Alex. And one of the key sort of POV shots of Jaws is of that boy's feet hanging over the edge of the fucking lilo. This is why I this is basically why I wear socks to bed, why I like to have a dump bed so I can stick my feet diagonally across, because I am tall. My feet hang over the edge of the bed, and I do not like the sensation of my feet hanging over the edge of the bed, because it is now almost instinct now that, like, when I go to bed, that shark POV of Alex's legs and chomp. So I had these nightmares, and it was like hell. Just, and bearing in mind, like, this was happening at the same time as I'd be going to school, dealing with, you know, the grind work of homework and whatever, and then getting, you know, like, people kicking my, you know, massive locker-sized bag all around the class, and, like, you know, it didn't help that I was also a fucking weird kid. I mean, I'm still a fucking weird adult, but I was weirder. Like, I would open my sort of, like, pencil case by biting it because I wasn't strong enough to open the clasp. So I'd be there, so like, and of course, to everyone else, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? And it's, I had to open my pencil case. And there'd be times when the teachers would join in. Like, all of this is going on in the daytime, and then at nighttime, sharks are circling. Right? And so I basically realized the only way I can deal with this is if I confront the fear head on, right? Like, because the moment I know it's a dream, I stop having the fear, right? Or at least I can deal with the fear, right? Because the dreams, the nightmares would always be shark, 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 oh shark, 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 shit. Right? It's like, I'm screwed, I'm screwed, I'm screwed, I'm screwed, I'm screwed, oh crap, there's no way out. Right? Like, I am literally about to be the center of a fucking bait ball. There is no way out for me. I am food. Right? Never mind, in order for this all to happen, right? It would not happen under no set of circumstances, but like the dream, the fear was shark, 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 no way out, I'm dead. And then the moment it was like, I'm screwed, I would wake up terrified and not be able to go back to sleep. Right? And so the way I dealt with this is I decided, well, okay, I'm now talking to you about my dreams, which maybe is not what you wanted, but it's happening. So before I can talk about how I solved that, I have to talk about another dream that I've had, which sounds like a nightmare, and yet weirdly has always been kind of an optimistic and enjoyable dream, which might sound weird when I explain it. So, at school, at the school I used to go to, there was this little wall that ran along like the edge of one of the playing pitches or whatever, and it went along, you know, by the sort of stairs, right? So you could get on it at certain points, and then at other points it would be higher and higher and higher, right? Not ludicrously so, but like to a kid, it would certainly be high enough that you would struggle getting onto it, right? From something that you could easily step onto to something that's significant height to a kid. So basically, one of my sort of earliest dreams that's kind of still recurring even now, except now it's sort of updated sort of quasi-university settings or what have you, is that I'd get on this step and I'd run along it and then I'd jump off it and suddenly, like, reality would warp. So, dream, you're in a dream, you're in a dream. And then I would fall. I would plummet. And because this is dream logic, there would be a grace period as you're falling, aware that you're falling, and then... Except, the reason I mention this, and the reason why this is relevant, is that you'd be falling and falling and falling, and this would be the ground, and then go, fall, and genuinely, like, I would have to sort of drop, the fall would be in third person, right? So I'd be sort of feeling it in the moment, watching myself in third person fall, hit the ground, and then the sort of the camera would move past the ground, and I'd see a part of the sort of the purpley brown of my sort of, I suppose, internal holodeck, right? My brainscape, you know, the canvas of my brain would show up and it's like, okay. And so that basically, that dream and that moment of just like, you're dead, thump, this is a dream. That experience taught me, okay, so if I can die in the dream, then I will be aware it's a dream and the fear won't be there. And you may be starting to see how this is relevant now. So when I had this dream again of the sharks and the sharks and the sharks and the shark, and oh shit, the first time the shark showed up, I swam towards it. I swam into it. And I remember that, like, the dream logic, the subconscious, right, it's there to scare. It's not there to genuinely, like, traumatize me. It's not me sort of having dreams about myself dying. It's me having nightmares about what if this horrible thing could happen. And so when I swam into the shark's mouth, it wouldn't do anything. Right? The fear would instead be like emphasizing, there's other sharks behind you. Never mind that I am literally like inside, you know, chest deep inside this shark's mouth. The fear was the others. And so I remember making, sort of seizing control in a lucid dream way and making that shark bite down and saying, no, in this dream, right now, this shark chomp. And I was still alive. Because obviously, dream, right? And obviously, I hadn't watched the kind of horror movies and I didn't have the kind of understanding of biology as I do now. I had not watched the kind of things that make me an expert on vor and, you know, and the ways in which the human form can be presented as delicacies in fiction. Right? So there wasn't any graphicness to it. It was more just kind of like that was the thing I did. That for months, every time I had this dream of the shark and the shark and the shark, I would make the shark bite down on me until the fear went away, until it became routine, until it became normal. Dying was the mercy from the fear. Because of course the dying wasn't real, right? The dying in a dream doesn't mean the dream is over. Dying in a dream just means, well, that didn't work. You're still in the dream, but now you know you're in the dream, right? And so it's like now, I still have dreams about sharks, and they still give me a bit of fear. And I still find myself tucking up my feet over the edge of the bed and stuff. But it's a very different kind of fear now. It's like I almost more have dreams about the fear of watching a shark film and having a nightmare, right? Like I've genuinely had a very meta nightmare dream, you know, within the last couple of years, where it has been like me in the dream watching a film about sharks and then being in the dream as the characters in this absurd situation as the monster shark is after them, and like the shark is coming after me and it's trying to eat me, and I'm feeling the fear of the guy, of the me watching the movie, going, you know, I really hope this doesn't give me nightmares. Which is really weird, to have such a meta level nightmare where you're experiencing the sensation of being the person in the moment being chased by the shark, and the fear you're feeling is not, oh my god, there's a giant shark, but I really don't want to have a nightmare about this. As you're having a nightmare about this. But that's, I suppose, the evolution of my nightmares. But I suppose that rounds off sort of how I dealt with the anger and the nightmares to begin with, right? The anger was something that I decided I wasn't going to give in to, and I developed ways to vent safely and techniques to vent safely. The fear was something I learned to consciously control, right? In both instances, I defeated my emotions with rationality. With anger, I said, no, I'm not going to do this. With the fear, I said, I'm going to make sure I am able to understand and be in the moment and deny this sensation. Okay. So now let's move forward to kind of how I use emotion and stuff in day-to-day life. Now that we've got the, you know, the foundings of how the fuck do I cope with these two things in my life, let's deal with sort of how I am as an adult with emotions. Well, now that you've got this grounding of where this shit begun. Okay. Alright, so let's flash forward to 2013. Right. Gallifrey 1 has happened, right? And for those of you who don't know, Gallifrey 1 is basically the largest dedicated Doctor Who convention in the world, or at least it was at the time of 2013. And for those of you who don't know, 2013 was the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who. I had learned about Gallifrey 1 through listening to a podcast known as Radio Free Skaro. Don't really listen to it anymore. I've kind of stopped caring about the Doctor Who podcasts because I sort of stopped caring about Doctor Who itself, because basically Moffat got shit. So maybe Chibnall will help things. Maybe. But I'm not so sure. I think basically they need new blood into the show, but Doctor Who has now become so big and received so much criticism that they don't want to risk giving it to someone new lest they screw it up, and there goes their cash cow. So yeah. But suffice to say, at the time, Doctor Who 2013, there had been some rough stuff, but Doctor Who was still fucking big, right? And it was leading up to Matt Smith leaving the Christmas of that year. And obviously I was leading up to the fact that, I was about to head into my final year of university, and thereafter back to the family home. And bear in mind, when I went to college and university, I had no plan, right? I wasn't thinking I'll get a job. I was thinking I just wanted to get out of school. And then I just decided I wanted to build a Dalek, and then suddenly I was going to be a writer. There was no plan at any point. And like pretty much the only piece of guidance that sort of my parents sort of put upon me was, make sure you do Maths GCSE again at college because you fucked it up at school. Right. Incidentally, no one has really given a shit about whether I have my Maths GCSE. No one. Mind you, nobody's really given a shit that I've got a degree in creative and professional writing and film studies either. But, as I say, I had no plan. And this is why I am now weeping into a pillow. I shouldn't make jokes about being depressed about things because people misunderstand. But yeah, I am in a situation where it is very hard to find a job, and I am deeply regretting that that at no point did anyone say, it's going to be hard, do something that will get you a job, right? No, but I suppose I just expected that I would be working in a shop, and I thought, well, the thing about a shop is that it will be boring, and it will be horrible customers. I did not expect that there would be a whole corporate culture and, like, cult mentality to it that I would not be able to comprehend, right? I did not know the level of hell that was waiting for me when I finished university. But I knew that it was going to be bad when I finished university, and the reason that I knew it was going to be bad was because my family has always been difficult. Because basically, I got my anger management issues from my father. And I got my fear issues from my mother. And so, yeah, things were not looking good. And basically, the summer of 2013, my mother tried to steal £500 from me. And so I was like, okay, I can now no longer trust this woman, and I can't trust my dad either because he's a bastard. What the fuck am I gonna do when I finish? And I basically, I headed into the last 2 years knowing, and I mean, I had, like, from 2013, I headed into the next years that are now the last 2 years I have lived, 2015 and 2016, I headed into them knowing they were going to be hell, right? I knew when I finished university, there was a good chance that I would end up committing suicide, and I wanted to prevent that happening, right? And I suppose the reason why I am talking to you now is I need to explain to people that I have this shit down, right? If my situation was as simple as don't commit suicide, I've got that down, right? Like, and I'm really amazed at quite how well it went, considering that, like, I was expecting that, hey, I'll graduate university and I'll get a shitty job, and that'll be about it. I was expecting, you know, I'm gonna be back in the family home. Dad's gonna still be shouting. I'm not gonna have my friends. I'm not gonna have the convenience. I'm not gonna have all these things I'm used to. I'm not gonna have a 24-hour stand outside. I was not expecting to be diagnosed with Kalman syndrome, to be diagnosed with growth hormone deficiency. I was not expecting my parents to get divorced, to be moving house. I was not expecting my sister to emigrate. I was not expecting Trump or Brexit. I was not expecting the fucking Conservatives. Well, okay, I was kind of expecting the Conservatives, but like, I was not expecting just how very, very badly wrong things would go. But I knew they would go very badly wrong. And that there was a good chance I wouldn't make it, that I wouldn't survive it, right? So I had systems in place. And these are systems that I'm going to say to you now, to reassure you, right? When I get... Okay, the first thing to understand is that, for me, because of the whole fear and anger thing, I have always seen there basically being a disconnect between rationality and emotionality, right? Between sapience and sentience, right? Yes, we're humans, and so they're entangled, but I've seen them as a difference, right? Like, even though I, as a person, might be operating under the impression that I'm doing a rationalistic framework, I'm still a person who is going to be going about it with these all these emotions going on. But it's kind of, it's like, actually, the sort of the Terry Pratchett watch books do a very good job of sort of examining what it means to have these emotional conflicts going on and have this sort of rational, logical core of just like when you have nothing else when your world is shattered and destroyed and you hate yourself and the world and you're angry and you're upset and you do the job that's in front of you. I mean, like, that happens. That's genuinely a line from I think it's Night Watch, right, which is actually named after, you know, the Night Watch where the watch sort of began. In that it's basically like the key event, which it's Night Watch is sort of Les Miserables as a Discworld book, and in Night Watch, basically Sam Vines, who at that point in the series had like a wife and a son, is effectively sent back in time to fill in the shoes of his old mentor into this horrific period of Discworld history. And it's like he has a chance to put things right, but maybe if he puts things right, then he won't go back to the reality where his wife and son are. So there is this genuine moment of like, what the heck? What the almighty heck? For poor Sam Vines, as he's just like torn between love and duty, right? Like, he wants to prevent untold, well, not untold because he's experienced it. He wants to prevent this massacre he has witnessed, but at the same time, if he does that, he might not see his wife and son again. And it's this moment where he just breaks and then decides, no, you do the job that's in front of you. And bearing in mind, like, I had listened to all the Discworld books by the time, you know, like, I was making this choice. I was saying, okay, when I finish university, hell is gonna come my way. It is gonna be tough. I am gonna have no one. It is just going to be me. And so there is a difference between emotions and rationality for me. Like, I can be happy, I can be sad, I can be raging at the world, but like, at a certain point, the washing up still has to be done. The rubbish still has to be emptied. You know, you have to have a shower, you have to make sure there's food in the house. You know, you have to eat a meal every day, right? You have to take your pills, and you have to do what you have to do to live as a human, right? There are things that need doing no matter what emotions you're feeling. And this idea that, you know, sort of, you can be feeling rage, you can be feeling despair, and it doesn't matter, because ultimately emotions are just your biology's way of saying, you should probably do this, because I mean that is effectively the role emotions play in evolution. Is that, like, from an evolutionary perspective, having sort of self-awareness and intellect and the ability to cognitively decide what you want to do is a very good idea, as it means that you are able to achieve very difficult things. But it also is a very dangerous and difficult thing, because if you are deciding, I'm going to do this, then you're also likely to screw up, in the sense that if you have free will to decide what you are going to do, you may be too distracted, pontificating on the love of your life, to notice there's a fucking ball raging towards you. Fucking run, We have emotions because it doesn't matter what logic you have, sometimes you need to get the fuck out of Dodge. Sometimes you just need to twat the guy with an axe coming at you, and sometimes, no matter how angry you feel, you still need to care for someone, because god damn it, they're your genetics, and if you die tomorrow, then your genes are your best chance of having some sort of legacy. Right. It's a very crude way of, well, not crude, but it's a very sort of stripped down way of looking at emotions, and cold way of looking at it, but that is what the role they play in life. They are a guidance system. They are, hey Dumbo, this is what you're supposed to do here in order to avoid dying, right? And so when you are feeling despair, it is important to remember that. And so when you are feeling it, but by the way, if you're wondering what I keep getting distracted by, it's because my desktop icons are just slightly screwed up. Just slightly, just a little bit slightly screwed up. And I can just see it off the edge of the webcam program. It's just like. And I suppose that's an example of how, like, emotions and logic, they don't always gel. Like being someone who is rational is awesome, but sometimes you can screw stuff up and get distracted talking about emotions, because damn it, that's not how my icons are supposed to be. But you know, you do have to learn to control and ignore what your emotions are saying to you. And so for me, I've been fighting against anger and fear my whole life. Deciding, okay, I need to fight against despair was fairly simple, right? And bear in mind as well, also, it's not like, you know, getting bullied every day and having horrific nightmares was a fucking walk in the park either. It's not like fear and anger are the only emotions you feel in that situation, right? There is a reason why I was able to say, okay, I'm probably going to be feeling suicidal now. This is what I need to do, right? I have had bad days. And I have coping mechanisms. And they aren't counseling, and they aren't CBT, and they aren't antidepressants. Not that those things can't work for you, not that those things can't work for people, because genuinely, if they work for you, awesome, right? You have a handle on this stuff. And it's like, I have a handle on my stuff too. I do have a handle on my stuff. And what I do is, the worst thing that I can do is be in my headspace, right? I mean, I'm not telling you how other people with depression cope, because I'm not even sure if I technically have, like, clinical depression or whatever the official term or diagnosis criteria is. I just know, right, that I've been suicidal a lot in my life. And I knew I was going into this period where suicide was likely to seem a reasonable option, and I decided to keep myself alive for as long as possible, because basically once you're dead, you're dead. There's no coming back from it. It's not like you can set an alarm and just be like, yeah, wake me up, say a couple of years, maybe things will be better then, Although if we had cryo technology, the amount of people who would be like, just give me a couple of years. Just give me a couple of years, maybe things will be better. Oh, no, they aren't. Going back in the freezer. And so I suppose what I did was I did the sort of metaphorical equivalent of going back in the freezer, in the sense that I removed my brain from the situation that was causing it problems. I read, I listened to so many podcasts, watched so many Let's Plays, played so many games, I wrote so much. And this is where I need to go back into the nightmare scenario. Because, to begin with, saying I have control over this nightmare was enough, but you need to counter an emotion with another emotion. And that's when I started countering fear with lust. Right? Because basically about 14, 15, I'm kind of amazed this happened, considering that I had less testosterone than the average woman, but I sort of started to go through puberty, and so I started having thoughts about women, and I started, I basically started my initial research into like microphilia, and Vor terrified the almighty fuck out of me. But microphilia kind of, I suppose, appeals to that sort of very juvenile idea of lust and love, in the sense that it's like, here is a very beautiful woman, and you basically just take care of her like a pet. It really does. It really is a sort of a porn that plays into a kind of child's understanding of the way the world works, in the sense of, it's like, I can't be dealing with people and relationships, but at the same time I am kind of horny, so I'm just gonna have a very sexy lady as a pet hamster, right? It's a very juvenile fancy, and it is what I stumbled upon at that time when I had so little testosterone. But like, that was enough, right? That dream, that idea, that concept was enough, because suddenly it's like, the counter to fear is love or lust, and so then it'd be, okay, I'm having these nightmares. What do I do? Oh my god, sharks, it's really scary. And then it would just be like, think of pretty girls. Almost like, my mind to your mind. Think of the pretty girls. And then the pretty girls appear in the scene wearing bikinis, and it's like the sharks fuck off. Right? Never happens in a single sharksploitation movie, right? Never happens. It's not like, oh my god, the shark's going to kill me. Don't fear, young man. I am Venus, and I will protect you. Ta-da! And the shark fucks off. right? But that's kind of what happens in my dreams. It's just like, I suppose it's kind of like saying to my subconscious, yeah, we could be thinking about how it's really scary right now, or we could be thinking about and it's like my subconscious is still going, rawr, sharks, rawr, emotional responsibility to a world of capitalism, rawr, and then it just goes, ooh, tits. Ooh, pretty ladies. I probably, going, ooh, pretty ladies, probably, that's, maybe, not a good thing to do. But, like, that's how I conquered my fears, right, in the end. Which, incidentally, has led to some very different sleepless nights recently, because, obviously, now I have testosterone. Suddenly saying, okay, I'm going to fight against nightmares with the power of lust. Doesn't always work, because then it's like, oh yeah, but this is a really good dream. Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, what happens next? What happens next? What happens next? And then before you know it, it's like 8 hours later, and you're like, fuck, I haven't slept. Because it's just like, I was too interested in what was happening in the dream. But I suppose, yeah, that does actually function as a nice segue into the fact that I used, in that, obviously, you know, one of the horrible things to happen to me that I did not expect was the diagnosis of Kalman syndrome, right? But obviously, one of the good things about being diagnosed with this was that I then got the treatment. And I have testosterone now. So, you know, I was having these juvenile fantasies about women before as like, oh, they're cute and adorable pets who I want to look after. And now it's just like, it's... Okay, what's the best way to describe this? I suppose it's like the difference between like a chicken korma and a chicken jalfrezi, in the sense that when you're beginning and you're just starting out, you have your korma and it's like, oh, this is really lovely, yes, great korma, yeah, it's got nice spice to it. And then you have the jalfrezi, and it's like, admittedly, in my case, it's because the jalfrezi is way too spicy for me, and I'm like, I need something to take away the spice. But same difference, I suppose. It's such an increase in intensity, and it's like, things are dark. Things are objectively very, very dark at the moment. And I am living with a guillotine above my head, right? In the sense that unless this YouTube thing takes off, which fortunately it seems to, when frankly there is no reason in hell why it should, why do any of you watch my stuff? I mean, yes, you hate me, but why do you watch my stuff? Right? Even for lolcow values, why do you watch my stuff? Why do you need to watch video after video of me in order to get your lolcow stuff out? Why do I keep getting views? This doesn't make any sense, but suffice to say, it is happening, and it is awesome that it is happening. And it means that I genuinely might be able to survive. But aside from this, right, I am struggling like hell to get a job. Heck, I'm struggling like hell to just find somewhere to volunteer. The more time I spend outside of social circles in the real world, the harder it is for me to spend time in the real world, never mind to spend time in a social circle, right? In the sense that my social life, my social skills are dependent upon practice and experience, and like any muscle, if you don't exercise it, you stop being good at it. And I have spent the last 2 years not talking to anyone other than my family. So yeah, it's not good. Indeed, I suppose what's almost more worrying is that I have technically spent more time talking to police officers than I have talking to friends in real life within the last 2 years. And when I say real life, I mean, like, you know, meat space, as it were, you know, the flesh. And, you know, text-based conversations have a very different kind of social skills, social understanding associated to them than real life stuff, than meat space stuff. So yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult when you are someone whose ability to use social skills depends on the experience, and yet you have no money and no way to go out to get that experience. And I am also very conscious of the fact I don't want to be one of those people who is like, if I'm going to learn social skills, I want to do so with a friend who is understanding and like, okay, I'm gonna help you upgrade your social OS. I don't just want to sort of go out to some random bar and start talking to people, because I will be so weird and it will be so embarrassing. So hard to sort out the social situation. Romantic situation going surprisingly well, actually. Surprisingly well. I mean, I can't really say anything because I still live in the fucking middle of nowhere. And it's like, what things are going on aren't going to go on until the move is finalized. But, you know, I suppose that's the thing of like, it's really, really hard and I feel really, really alone because there are people out there who I could be with and who kind of want to hang out with me, but I can't because I have no money and they live too far away. So it's like, I want to move, but moving takes time and money and I mean, yeah. Stuff is happening and it is slow and not good, right? Like, there is a whole load of stuff going on that is just not good, and it's like I can't even use the sort of social security system, and so at a certain point, right, the money's going to run out unless like this YouTube thing becomes good enough that I can rely on it for food, which maybe it's kind of getting to that point now, right? Unless this YouTube thing becomes good enough, then I basically don't have a way to sustain myself, right? Like, ideally, I would like a way to sustain myself now that doesn't rely on my parents or my family in any way, but for now, at least I have my parents and my family. But at a certain point, one way or another, they aren't going to be there. And so I am living with this guillotine over my head of just like, capitalism is a bitch, and at a certain point, there just ain't going to be money for me to live. And I just have to walk around knowing that, right? Like, that is just a thing that is there that I can't really do anything about. Like, I am trying to do stuff about it, but nothing I am doing really is changing it, right? It's because, you know, even my YouTube now, right, it might be enough for me to eat on, right? But I mean, unless somebody like puts in a trust fund or whatever to pay off the fucking council tax or an electricity bill or whatever, I'm not gonna be able to keep a place going. And so, I mean, it's and so therefore, you know, I would be homeless, right? And people freeze to death over Christmas when they're homeless, right? Being homeless is hell. And it's like, even if you have a job, even if you have friends nearby, even if you're just sort of sleeping rough and you're still a part of society, the acts of just the sheer reality of sleeping rough on the streets is hell, right? Even if you have the money to get good food, even if you have the ability to go to the library and use the internet and watch films and all this other stuff, just sleeping on the streets is hell. And it's like, I am living my life at the moment knowing that is coming for me. And again, that is something I didn't take into account when I was sort of awaiting when I was preparing for when I finished university, right? I did not take into account that there was a not insignificant possibility I could be homeless, right? And as far as I'm concerned, the moment I become homeless, I'm a dead man. Because I could not deal with having no, and I'm going to say it, no safe space. I could not deal with having nowhere I felt safe, that I felt that I could just let myself go in. Because it's like, you know, today, right, I walked to the shops to get some food for my mum, who's kind of feeling a bit poorly at the moment, and I forgot my wallet. So I had to go again, and when I came back, I was wrecked. I was just basted in sweat, and for me, home and safety means that once I'm there, if I just need to sleep, if I just need to go to the loo, like, to a certain extent, right, safety means that if I had one night where I had screaming diarrhea and vomit and a vomiting bug and my nose was running, and you know that so long as I wasn't actually going to die, that I could just have somewhere warm and comfortable that I could just be in, be okay in, and ride out that storm, right? And to a certain extent, right, that's what happened last night, because I was stupid enough to have a packet of Mentos and a bottle of Diet Coke, right? And no, it did not cause the Mentos mountain, but it did cause some not terribly nice bowel issues. I could not sleep for, my body just being like, we will clean every single last shred out of your bowels. It was not a pleasant experience. And it's like some nights, and I know I'm going to say this on the fucking internet to a bunch of bloody haters who will take this out of context and who will post this all over their websites going, oh, look at the potato man. But some nights, a safe space means somewhere you can go to and just feel like you can go to sleep, even if there is a risk you're gonna shit your pants. Some nights you just need to be like, I don't care if I piss my pants and crap myself. I am tired as hell and I need to go to sleep. And just knowing that, when you wake up in the morning, you can have a shower, you can get a fresh set of clothes, and everything's gonna be okay, right? You can just ride out the storm. That's what home means to me. That's what safety means to me. And that's why homelessness is something I could never deal with. Because I have grown up with rhinitis. That means my nose runs basically all the time. That also, by the way, is why I am not great at sports. Right? Partly it's poor hand-eye coordination, and partly it is just that my nose literally is just so perpetually bunged up with snot that I have to breathe with my mouth open. And I am genuinely quite self-conscious about the fact that I am walking down the street going yeah, you see me in my hat just going just picking stuff off the shelf. It's ridiculous. It is utterly fucking ridiculous. I am a freak, an utter fucking freak, and it's like I get nosebleeds to the point where I can just be having conversation with someone and I will just sort of start rolling up tissue paper, one-handed, ready to insert in my nostril after wiping away the initial spurt of blood. Right? Like, and sometimes I can actually catch it before it begins, and I'm just like, and then sometimes I will remove the tissue paper, expecting to see blood, and instead it's basically clear because it was just snot. It's like, I expected a nosebleed. I just had rhinitis. That could always be the story of my life. And, there is also the fact that I have piles, because there are consequences to eating mints and drinking Diet Coke and eating pizza. Right? And, I have migraines, which means that on occasion I have such severe headaches that I vomit up. So yeah, I do basically just need places where I can safely be disgusting, right? I just need a room where it's like I can have my bog roll, I can have my bin for the bog roll. There are towels over there are buckets over there's a shower over there are clean clothes over there. It's all okay. Speaking to a certain extent, hyperbolically here, but like, I need a home where I need somewhere I can feel safe to just let it all hang out. And apart from anything else, right? As I have explained, the way I deal with my anxiety, with my sort of nightmares, and with my sort of self-loathing, is through my fantasies. Incidentally, this is one of the few occasions where having a tiny penis is quite okay. Because I can be walking down the street, sort of music on, telling stories to myself about not telling stories, but sort of doing pre-writing for the stories that I will write with a massive boner, and because I have such a tiny penis, nobody notices, nobody knows. I mean, it's not like I'm taking advantage of the situation. It's not like I'm there fapping away. But it is just a fact of, if you're walking down the street thinking of pretty ladies, and you're someone who is attracted to pretty ladies, it helps if you can have a boner that is discreet. That may have been too much information, but I'm going to give you even more too much information. That, incidentally, is why I do not like MRIs, right? Because, I've had MRIs because, I can't smell and, growth hormone deficiency and what have you, right? Like, I've had a couple of MRIs. And for those of you who don't know, an MRI is magnetic resonance imaging. And basically, they lie you down in this very tiny sort of thing, this very sort of tiny sort of like sled with this helmet over you, like, and then they stick you inside this sort of vast circular machine as it makes lots of bumps and noises and I'm doing the thing again. But it's going sounding like an old printer or a dial-up connection sound, just and it's really quite loud and really, it'd be better in a way if it was monotonous, but it doesn't stick to the monotonousness. Like our brains can filter out patterns. It's not a consistent pattern. It is a different series of just like continuous, just continuous thrumming and banging just loudly, and you're stuck in this tiny tube, and it's a very claustrophobic situation. But that wasn't the worst part of it for me. The worst part of it for me was that, how do I deal with stressful situations? Well, I think of beautiful women. And what's the other thing about having a magnetic resonance imaging? Your head and your torso is inside. Your legs aren't. Right? And I have mentioned that it is possible to have discrete boners before, but it is not possible to have discrete boners when you are lying down. Gravity does not work that way. So I am always really tense when I have an MRI, because I'm like, I need to be happy and content, but I also need to make sure I don't cross this line. Emotions are complicated and emotions are hard, but I am an expert at manipulating my own emotions. Like, part of what is needed to be a writer is putting yourself into difficult mindsets, because if you want to write a really sort of impactful scene of, you know, if you want to write a really powerful, bombastic scene, you need to feel powerful and bombastic. If you want to write a really sad, heartbreaking scene, you need to kind of be in that headspace. And that's why I listen to music. Music helps me to kind of get into the flow of writing, what have you. And so I put myself into different emotional states as part of the course. I am used to modifying my emotional state. If I have a bad day, and I do have bad days, I know how to deal with it. And yes, to a certain extent, it is, oh, pretty ladies, right? Like, this is, I suppose, why it is so very hard for me not to write pretty ladies at the moment, because it's like, I want to have plot and stuff and character development, and I want to have, you know, exposition and technologies, and I want to explore ideas and concepts. But you know what? I also am stuck in this very boring, shitty situation. I'm also going to write about pretty ladies, because I really, really want to think about pretty ladies. And part of that also is just that, you know, because I've only been sort of receiving a normal human male's dosage of testosterone for the last couple of years, I suppose I'm sort of, developmentally speaking, about sort of 16 or 17 in terms of my testosterone levels and my sort of use for them. My being used to them. So I'm still very much in the, hey, this is awesome way. And that's not necessarily helping things. And it's also why I'm sort of isolating myself and quarantining myself from women, because it's like, I like you. You are awesome people. I care for you a great deal. You do not want to be around me at the moment, because you are all very lovely and adorable and beautiful women, and I, at the moment, am someone driven by dreams of beautiful women. This is not good. You know, what's that line from Dissecting Worlds, when they're talking about Anakin Skywalker, when he's training to become a Jedi, and how, like, ooh, he's becoming a teenager. Maybe we should just take the lightsabers away from him for a moment. You know. Maybe just stay away from your female friends until you've gotten the hang of the fact that, you know, your body is raging with testosterone and you're just like, girls! Mind you, sometimes I look at Grant Gustin, who plays Barry Allen in The Flash, and I'm like, oh, yes, indeed. Same with Matt Smith in Doctor Who. Bisexuality, it is awesome at times. But enough about me being a sordid individual. Although I suppose in a way it is related to the fact that, yeah, that's one of the methods I use to help with the fact that, yeah, life is tough. Life is really, really tough, and you've just got to make yourself feel happy despite this. And part of the, you know, part of the way I deal with life being horrible is it's just like I have the sort of the logical, rational part, which is just like there are things that need to be done. There is, do the job that's in front of you. Boom, get it done. And part of it is you need to counter the fear with something positive. What's something that's quite easy for me to conjure up at the moment? Lust. So, conjure that up. And part of it is just saying, no, there are things I will not do. Like, I could be in the worst depths of depression, and I've had bad days. I have had bad days. And so long as I have that sense of awareness that this is not something I want to do, I can basically say, no, it doesn't matter how bad you are now. You aren't gonna fucking do this. So instead, do something else. Right? Yeah, you feel shitty. You don't want to exist. Stop doing that. You're not going to commit suicide. I'm not going to let you commit suicide. Don't fucking commit suicide. Instead, watch a fucking Let's Play. Oh, you don't want to watch a Let's Play? Fine. Then watch any one of these other things or listen to one of the podcasts. If there isn't a podcast you want to listen to one of the old podcasts. Listen to Dissecting Worlds. Listen to School of Movies. Just do something to get your mind off this bad patch. Ride it out. You'll get over the bad patch. It'll be good again. And I do that. And I do that all the time. And I know I can do it. And I do it. And I do get over it. And yes, it's tiring. And yes, to a certain extent, when I am back in that bad place, I remember all the other times I have been in that bad place. But at the same time, I have so much I want to live for at the moment. So much. And since this video, this particular segment is now an hour long, I think I'm going to do a cut there, and then I'm going to talk about the happy things, because I sure as shit can't end it off right here on a sort of sour note. So we're going to talk about the happy things and the reasons that I have to live, because there are a lot of good things going on at the moment, and I suppose now that we've done all this preamble, we can then talk about sort of reality and where I am, and yeah, see. Okay, so let's talk good things. This YouTube channel, because this YouTube channel keeps me connected to the outside world, and it makes me money, and it means that whilst it is very tempting for me to cut myself off, and I have largely cut myself off from the world, because basically at a certain point you understand Nazis are bad. At a certain point, you don't need to know, oh, and they also have done this extra thing and this extra thing, and they also did this and that, and they're also doing this and this and that and this, and oh, what about this? Right? At a certain point, you're just like, okay, bad people, we must stop them, right? But what's exciting right now is the revolution has started, right? And I suppose maybe it's because America is a country that can do revolution. Like, in Britain, there's no point talking about the Tories, because we don't do revolution. Like, every year on the 5th of November, we celebrate the day a revolution failed. This is why we wear Guy Fawkes masks, because he's the only guy we have who tried to do anything. And by all accounts, Guy Fawkes was genuinely a horrible guy wanting to do a horrible thing, but he is like the closest we have in England and Britain. I mean, okay, we had the English Civil War, but you know, that was almost worse than that. That was the monarch. That was basically Parliament, all the rich toffs, deciding, hey, we don't like the monarchy. Oh wait, let's have the monarchy again. You know, it wasn't exactly, you know, sort of a global revolution and uprising. It was more just sort of, you know, Francis Urquhart deciding, right, I've had enough of you. Let's try someone different. It's not really the same thing as, you know, what America has. Like, America is a country founded on the revolutionary ideal, on the ideals of, you know, life, love, and the pursuit of happiness. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you know. And really, Britain doesn't have a revolutionary spirit, so when Theresa May is just being horrible, we're just sort of like, ooh, I don't like you. Whereas in America, you're just like, yeah, come on, comrades! And it really is quite, you know, it's... This, by the way, is such an example of how fucking white privilege I am, that I'm feeling optimistic about the future because, yay, we get a fun revolution to partake in. Meanwhile, you know, there are black people getting shot dead in the street and, you know, trans people who can't go to the toilet, and they're looking at me going, you complete tosser. And they're right to. But the fact that I essentially, I don't know why you have decided that you will keep giving me money for telling you things you don't like, but since you have all decided that you want to follow someone who stands against your principles, I will gladly give you story after story of how your country's citizens are rebelling against Donald Trump. You know, we can talk about NASA going rogue, about the White House staff going rogue, about the national parks going rogue. You know, like, God bless you, you're doing it, lads, you're doing it. I'm sorry, I'm an English guy. We don't change stuff. We don't revolution anything. You know, when an English guy gets really mad, he says, right, I'm going to write a letter. You know, that's when you really piss us off. Okay, I'm going to write a letter now. I mean, admittedly, in America, it's not quite so fun, because if you really piss an American off, he'll go and get his gun. But the point is, you have guts and you have gusto, and you get stuff done. Not always good stuff, but you get stuff done, and it's so heartening to see that there are people out there now who are just like, no, sod you, we will not stand for tyranny and bigotry. That's really optimistic. Really, really something nice to see. And the fact that it's happening at this early stage, you know, it really is so nice to see. You know, I suppose I was expecting a very sort of grim, carefully planned out, well, you see, we must concentrate all these immigrants into these camps because they might be radicalized, and we need to make sure we watch out for radicalization. Well, you see, we had to shoot that immigrant because it turns out they were radicalized. And, oh dear, they all appear to have mysteriously vanished under circumstances whilst they were going near the border. Oh, we should fix that border fence higher. And I shouldn't be joking about sort of Holocaust. But I suppose it's kind of, it's gallows humor, because it's like, yeah, that's the thing we're facing now. Like, that could legitimately happen. Like, the National Guard have been rounding up immigrants. Not good. Or at least it seems like they were. As in, I saw news stories about them, but they could have been fake news. So, yeah, you know, this YouTube channel is part of the good things, because if I can make a living from it, hell yeah. If I can make a living pissing off Nazis, I call that pretty good. I call that pretty darn good. But also, like, my writing, you know, my writing has reached a point where I'm not just writing for this concept, this idea. I'm writing because I have a story I want to tell. I'm not just writing out of escapism, I'm not just writing out of a distraction. I'm writing because I have a story I want to tell, I have a multiverse I want to set up, and I suppose, like, learning about politics, learning about war, playing games like Civ 5 and Rome Total War, it has made me think much better in terms of tacticality and in terms of how the heck I actually structure this stuff and how the heck I actually plot this stuff out. And so I am working on an ambitious project now, but an ambitious project that I am hoping will be able to tie together. And I am genuinely thinking that what I might like to do is get another account so I can have audiobooks there as, like, so I can post my audiobook adaptations there so they can all be sort of found in one place, because I have gotten a fairly strong idea of a multiverse I want to tell now. And yeah, it's, I suppose the first wave of me attempting to do this is going to be garbage. But, like, this is something I'm excited about, right? This is something new. This is a challenge. This is not just NaNoWriMo, write a book. This is not just NaNoWriMo, write a book using only female characters. This is not just, I want to write a story about Contravoxine Revolution. This is me saying, I want to write a big combination of series that all tie together as part of the same mythology arc, and not just in a, well, everything is canon, so this is all tying together in that sense, but in the sense that this is all being thought out like pieces on a giant chessboard. Like that each story will intersect with every other story, and that you will get a grand narrative visible through all these different stories. Admittedly, because it's me, and because I am, you know, person in the middle of hell, who deals with being in the middle of hell by going, "Oh, pretty ladies." It's not exactly the most feminist work in the world. Like, even when I'm trying to sort of tell pseudo-feminist stories, it's still very much like pauses the narrative every few scenes to just be like, "But they're pretty ladies being pretty," because, you know, I'm in a not good place and I need to think of pretty ladies, and so I'm going to write pretty ladies a lot. But then again, a lot of my stuff is very long, so maybe once I've got this all sort of collected or whatever, maybe once it's all sort of written and published, what I'll do is I'll come out with a collected works thing, and it will just be sort of like cut down as just like, we don't need that scene, we don't need that scene, and then suddenly it's just gonna, you know, you change it from being a sort of torture porn fic to being a story of, you know, female empowerment and leading a revolution, right? I don't know. But the point is, I'm excited about this. I am filled with zeal, and I really, really want to live where I'm going to move to when we do move. Because I know that there is someone there that I care for, well, several someones who I'll be able to see and I'll be able to hang out with. I will have a social life. Me, Potato Man, I will have a social life in the flesh, which is awesome. And with people I trust and care about, which is really awesome. And like, here is where I start to sound, I suppose, more pathetic than a guy who has talked to you about, you know, discrete boners and having nightmares about getting eaten alive. Other things that make me ridiculously happy. Many a true nerd is doing a Skyrim Let's Play series. This is awesome. This is so very, 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 very awesome. Okay? Because I love Many a True Nerd. He is one of my favourite Let's Players. Possibly because he's kind of like me, only more posh and more English and more Londony. But like, he's just an adorable nerd who is like a classics major and who is amazing at video games. I'm not, by the way. Yeah, kind of hard to be good at video games when you've got poor hand-eye coordination and a computer that can barely run Skyrim at 15 frames per second. Never mind Skyrim Special Edition. But yeah, Menu True Nerd is Let's Playing Skyrim, and that's awesome. So awesome. And the Rome Total War series by him is bloody magnificent. And I just love his Let's Plays. And Chugga Conrad's got a new Zelda Let's Play series that I'm watching, and that's bloody awesome too. And it's like, School of Movies has, well, it's always bloody awesome, but like, it's got a whole load of films it's going to cover that I've already seen now, that I am really interested to see what they think about them. So that's a whole load of awesomeness that is on the way that is just really fucking cracking. And Cortex and Hello Internet, awesome podcasts of awesomeness. Things are good, actually. Well, no. Things are not good, they are not bad. Things are good and bad. Things are great. There are awesome things in my life at the moment, and there are less awesome things. But I focus on the awesome. I just am always aware of the not awesome, right? And so I may be living with a guillotine over my head, but that doesn't mean I am suicidal, right? I may be prepared to stab myself in the chest instead of being homeless, but I ain't gonna be homeless for a while. So, yeah. I'm alive, I have reasons to live, and I'm living a good life. And things are tough, and I'm not sure they're gonna get easier, or at least that they're gonna get easy enough to stave off the guillotine, but I'm gonna try and have a good enough time of it until the end. And I suppose the thing is that I have this separation between sapience and sentience, rationality and emotions. And it's like, from a rational perspective, I'm fucked. But from a rational perspective, I also know that I ain't dead yet. And I ain't going to be dead for quite some time, right? Like, one of the sort of benefits of knowing the kind of probable date of your demise, well, not probable date, but like knowing the probable set of events that have to happen for your demise to happen, is that you can know that you're not gonna arrive there, right? Like, it's like I suppose it's like the book Mostly Harmless, you know. Arthur Dent finds out early on, I think, he finds out in Life, the Universe, and Everything from Agrajag that he's not gonna die until he's killed Agrajag in his final form on this particular date in this particular place, right? And he thus goes through the entirety of Mostly Harmless with this kind of laissez-faire attitude of fuck it, I don't care. Right? Okay, this is weird, this is insane, I'm gonna be fine. Which is the marvellous, sort of transitionary state for Arthur Dent, the everyman who nearly doomed the entire ship because he wanted a decent mug of tea to kind of go through, is that in the end he becomes almost like this Superman Daredevil because he's like, well, I ain't gonna die, am I? So fuck it. And I kind of feel like that, in the sense that until until the guillotine drops, until I am made homeless, I'm not going to commit suicide, so I'm okay. And I am okay. I am. You know, it's a complex situation and there are complex emotions. And yeah, I have bad days. There are days that I do basically just spend in bed. And there are days that I just need to, hot myself up on mints and Diet Coke and get to work writing. And there are equally days when I need to just, empty the rubbish, do the washing up, have a shower, and focus on being able to live. But the point is, I'm alive, and I like being alive. And I am going to be alive for quite some time. And indeed, I think quite seriously, these YouTube videos are reaching the point where they might be able to sustain me. If only in terms of food. But to be honest, if they can sustain me in terms of food, right now, during this transitionary period, that is fucking awesome, right? Because that's the hardest part, right? Right, because, that's the part where I need to sort of go to my parents and sort of say, so I need my food money to go out the road to not die for the next week. And yeah, they always sort of give it out, give the money so I have food. But being able to use my YouTube money for food, so good, so good. And I suppose at the moment things are difficult because there is the stress of moving and, what have you. But I'm going to do work into retraining my skill set so I can become an IT guy and what have you. Like, I am going to get more qualifications and I'm going to keep fighting this, right? It might be probable that I won't succeed, but I'm alive and I live and I keep fighting. And I suppose the thing is that I have an attitude, like, I don't like lying. I don't. It is just a thing about me. I don't like lying, and I suppose I look upon my situation and the kind of probabilities of how fucked I am as kind of the blunt, honest truth. Like, that's my rationality deciding, all things being equal, I'm fucked, right? And I suppose the thing is that when I give that sort of prognosis out on the internet, for me to have people who come back time and time and time and time again, and I know you fucking do, right? That means they must give something of a shit about me. I mean, admittedly, clearly they don't watch the fucking videos, although, frankly, who the fuck blames them? But you'd think if they don't watch the videos, they would know not to. Like, guys, if a video has you worried, for me, watch to the fucking end of it. Do not just watch the first 5 seconds and decide that something terrible is happening. But I suppose I am now encountering the issue that I encountered in my fiction, which is that it's all well and good you as the creator sort of having all these ideas in your head about what you're going to put out there, but it's ultimately down to how the heck the people who watch your videos, who read your content, are going to digest it, right? And it's like, in my fucking fan fiction, right, there is a whole big, sort of like breakdown and sort of plot arc about the discovery of the self-cure and how that works and what have you. And all of that context that was basically missed because someone just searched transgender. Oh my god! You missed out everything else that gave context. I mean, it was still shitty and I shouldn't have done it, and I'm sorry, but like, it made more sense in context. Wasn't necessarily still brilliant, but it made more sense. It's less terrible in context. And it's like, I make a video yesterday saying that, I mean, essentially the gist of yesterday's video was, I'm not going to commit suicide, instead I am in purgatory. And for some reason, someone interpreted that video to mean I am desperately suicidal and I'm about to kill myself. Like, literally the complete opposite meaning to what the video was saying. Right? Like, the video is saying, I am not going to kill myself and my life is awful and I'm not gonna pull the fucking parachute. What the fuck? And the person goes, he's gonna pull the parachute! He's gonna kill himself! Right, some people who watch your stuff, they don't read around the rest of the fucking context, they don't understand what the fuck's going on, but still they comment nonetheless. Still they rage nonetheless. Mind you, none of it takes the fucking cake as much as making a video called "The Genocidal Should Reconsider," and somebody said, well, I'm not genocidal, how dare you talk to me like that? Like, even if you didn't watch the video, it is specifically talking about the genocidal. The only way you could be offended about me saying the genocidal would be if you knew you were genocidal. And you were like, he's talking about me! See someone talking about the genocidal, takes offense, goes, oh my god, well, he can't say I'm genocidal. I must correct him at once. And it's like, dude, I'm just talking about the genocidal. If you aren't genocidal, you aren't genocidal, and thus you aren't being talked about. It's like when women on Tumblr talk about how male rapists are really horrible. And it's like, even I, knowing all of this, find myself in, what are you talking about? Men aren't so horrible. And it's like, this is specifically about male rapists. If you do not rape, you are not a male, you are not the subject being talked about. It's fine. But I'm a male. I don't like men being talked about negatively, even if you are specifically talking about rapists. So I suppose I can't criticize stupidity on the part of on the part of people sort of partaking in context, in content and taking it out of context, because clearly I am someone who suffers from that myself, as my raging at John Lockers would attest. You know, here they are saying, wouldn't it have been really nice if this writing had made more sense and they had actually been a gay couple? Wouldn't that have been nice representation? And then I promptly go off on one about going, hey, how dare you use outdated coding used by homophobes, because I'm still horrified by the colour pink, and fuck you! Like, I get it. Sometimes we're just stupid. Sometimes we just see something and it gets our hackles up and it gets our emotions up, and we just need to put our stupid out there. But like, you don't fucking call the police if you haven't fucking watched the entirety of the fucking video. Because apart from anything else, guys, in order for me to upload the video with the fucking intro on this, it means I have waited for it to finish rendering. It is not like it's not like it's a live stream, and so you need to call the police to send them around immediately because there is a danger that you'll kill yourself. No, like, literally, if I have uploaded it to YouTube, then, and it has got the intro on it, then I have finished the recording, I have left it in Windows Movie Maker, I have left it to process and render the audio file, and then I have added on the intro, and then I have put the animation blurring together the intro and the video, and then I have stuck on the call to action, and then I have rendered it, and then once it has been rendered I have stuck it to upload, and then once it has been uploaded I have published it places. So therefore it is not something you need to rush on. Therefore it is something you can afford to wait until the end of the fucking video. The irony, of course, being this is coming at the end of an hour-and-a-half plus long video, so nobody's gonna see this! Oh, God. And guys, do not be concerned that I laugh. Yes, I laugh at the madness of the world. That again does not mean I am going to kill myself. It is a method of dealing with the fact that life is mental. Life makes no sense. Anyway, I'm going to be making more of these videos because they make me money, and I am a regulated capitalist, which means I like money. You know, money can be exchanged for goods and services. Everybody's got to have a Simpsons reference, even me. Anyway, there is a Chugga Conroy Let's Play video I need to watch, and maybe by the time I am actually finished with this video, there will be more Menu True Nerd Let's Play videos to watch. In any case, I have been to the shop. I have snacks. I have snacky, muck. Snack. So, yeah. Anyway. Goodbye! Everything is okay. Chill the frick out! Thank you to all my Patreons at patreon.com for helping to make videos like this possible. If you wish to leave a like or dislike to rate the video for my analytics, that would be much appreciated. Comments are always welcome, though be aware that they will be moderated before being published, so please be civil. If you liked this video, please consider adding it to your favourites, sharing it to your friends, or subscribing. If you wish to help me out, or my channels, please consider whitelisting my videos in your adblock software, subscribing for monthly donations through Patreon, or giving a small one-off donation. Alternatively, I have a Steam wishlist for games I would consider let's playing or streaming, so if you would like to see me broken before the Dark Souls altar, or just happen to have gotten a duplicate of a game in a humble bundle, then you know what to do. I also have an official Facebook fan page, Twitter account, Tumblr, Reddit and blog, so you can stay up to date with all of my videos, blog articles and the things I care about. Links are in the video description. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I think that all that now needs to be said is ban all guns, institute universal basic income now, and ensure government is elected by proportional representation. Oh, and also, fuck the racists and fuck the alt-right.